Hi, family. Welcome to episode 2 of season 2. Yes. I am Melanie Lauren.
I'm Holly Chanel, and this is Dip with Sweet and Hot.
Yes, it is. Yes. All right, welcome back, y'all. I've been hearing a lot of good things about episode 1.
Baby, the interwebs is twittering, okay?
People are really liking it.
I love that. So first of all, before we get into that, I just want to apologize for the audio on episode 1.
Technical
difficulties, but like that's a sign that you are always growing. You know what I mean? That's a sign that we like growth. We like growth. We're elevating. Yes. And so we were trying out some new equipment. We were trying out a new space that we were in.
We were in a new space.
We were in a new space that was also a rehearsal studio for others. So you may have heard some things. Super producer Lewis has asked us to put in a disclaimer that he was not involved in the making of that episode. That was not his work. And
Fair enough.
I will admit that was my handiwork, growth.
Yes, thanks to our guests who joined us, our men's panel, once again, who joined us for the season finale of episode 1, and again for the premiere episode of season 2.
Yeah.
In which we're going to be talking about...
What?
We're going to be talking about Black love.
Oh, Black love.
Yes.
I love love.
I love love too. And, I know when we say Black love, a lot of times people's minds immediately go to romantic love, like the romantic relationships between Black people. But there's so much other love, right? And then there's
So everything's not Love Jones or Brown Sugar or Love and Basketball?
Not everything. I mean,
The Best Man?
You keep naming Black rom-com movies, but yes, there's other kinds of love. No disrespect to the films or anybody involved with them. But we thought it might be nice to talk about, if we expand our minds a little bit and talk about just the different ways that Black people show and experience love.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's a very important topic to address, because what I hear, especially from a lot of youth and from parents struggling, is that concept of the village and how we looked out for one another. We cared for one another. I mean, a lot of, especially when folks were in struggles, a lot of the ways that we made it through those biggest struggles was through the love that Black folks had for one another.
Yeah, and we're talking about Black love, Juneteenth, and Black love for this country.
Come on, make the connection.
Yes.
Okay.
So the relationship between different Black people and this country is complicated, and there are degrees of love.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk about Juneteenth, the meaning of Juneteenth as we're celebrating it in this season, and I guess the degrees of love that Black people have for the United States of America.
That sounds a little heavy. And I listen, we told you we was going to give you some intelligence. We told you what you could expect. So let's bring a little levity to it for a second.
Let's do what we always do.
Let's start how we always start.
What time it is.
What's sweet and hot?
Time for sweet and what's hot.
Yeah, what you got?
So I'll take what's sweet today. What's been sweet for me, I was thinking recently, I've had some really amazing work experiences.
Ooh.
Some very different, but all great. Y'all heard me talk in season 1 about the work that I was doing with an amazing group of artists working on productions of Dreamgirls.
Yes.
And I left that really...
Dream Girl.
Boys will make you happy.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I let her do that from time to time.
Thank you.
But I did that, and then, which was a very, speaking of Black love, a big company and community of Black artists. Of course, there were people who worked on our show who were not Black, but our company was actually largely Black on stage as well as behind the scenes in a lot of ways.
And I got to witness the community in that cast.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But then I moved into a very different space.
Okay.
And the next show that I worked on after that was The Music Man, which is a classic American musical.
It really is.
Some of you may be familiar, I don't know, with the show, or maybe you've seen the movies, because there's been at least 2 versions of the movies. And it is not a Black show.
At all.
And so I went from Dreamgirls into Music Man, not really knowing what to expect, not really knowing how I was going to feel, and also working with a community that was mostly white. There was diversity, of course, but it was still probably majority white, telling what is historically a white story with a group at a theater where I've never worked.
Okay.
With only two other out of a cast of 37 people, I only knew two of them heading in because we had done another show together. So just basically a lot of newness. And I just want to say, I recently closed that show, and I just want to say that it was also so lovely.
Listen,
it was also so loving, but even off stage, the community of artists that I was planted in was so loving and nurturing. Everybody got along, to my knowledge, at least. We put together this work together. We did it week in, week out. And I just left with not only new work relationships, but I feel like new friends. We enjoyed hanging out together. And so I just feel really blessed. And it's sweet to me that I've been able to do that and I don't take that for granted because not everybody likes the people that they work with.
Yeah, that's true. Trust me, I know.
And so I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome.
What's hot with you?
Well, I will say, just to add to your suite a little bit, I invited my coworker and her children to the Music Man, and I saw them again yesterday. And both girls were like, when does the Music Man close? And I was like, oh, it closed already, sweetheart. And she looked at her mother. She was like, Mom, we were supposed to go back. And it was their first time. I think that might have been their first time at a musical,
theater experience,
like their
first musical experience,
like big theater experience. So thank you to your castmates for the work that you put in, and you're literally inspiring the next generation of artists, because one daughter was more concerned about what was going on acting wise, but the other daughter was looking at wardrobe and set and lighting. And
I love that.
Yeah. She was like, I'm weird. I was like, no, you're not, baby, because I'm like that. You know what I mean? So it was, congratulations to you all. That is very sweet. Now, what's hot with me is that I'm hot. I'm literally boiling outside. We've had a couple of 90-degree days, or what felt like it might have been 83, but the way that my Perry is set up, my heat index internal was probably about like 96.2, which is uncomfortable.
Still not feverish.
Yeah, it's not feverish, but I'm hot.
It's summertime.
It's summertime. So I'm just going to buy more biking shorts because, thick thighs, they might save lives, but they know how to chafe in the summertime, baby. So I'm literally hot, and I'm just gonna try to.
Are you taking it out on other people? Like, should there be a public service announcement to beware, or what's happening?
There's not a public service announcement, but do not judge the fact that I keep a Holly Chanel branded Yeti in my hand, full of ice water at all times. Don't judge my life.
Oh, well,
I need to cool down.
Well, we have to stay hydrated anyway. So there's no judgment there.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, stay cool, friend.
I will do what I can.
Do what you can to try to stay cool this summer.
But yeah, girl, I'm hot. Okay. I am and don't judge my fan life. I'm debating about getting one of those rechargeable fans.
I see them a lot. People definitely use them backstage.
True, but I understand, because I like the big African fan that kind of folds out like a flower, because it's got real staying power, but that also requires me to move more, which is counterintuitive.
Exactly.
But then that's another thing that I have to charge.
So, well, I'm working. We can prioritize. You're going to come up with some solutions. You'll update us on what you have come up with to make it through the summer.
I will. I shall, because it is. Listen, my nickname this summer is Sundress Assassin.
Oh,
so I'm going to be outside. Yes, sundress.
That's next level.
Listen, okay. So
I don't even have I don't know what to say. A sundress assassin.
Sundress assassin.
Listen, stay safe out here, guys. Whoever who don't die. That's all I gotta say. When the sundress assassin comes through, don't die.
Gird your loins. Gird your loins. All right.
All right. Okay. Enough of this foolishness. Back to Juneteenth. and Black love in this country. All right, Hollee. Okay. So let me just tell the people real quick, because we're not going to judge anyone if they don't really know
what Juneteenth
is. The true meaning. You know, it's a holiday. You know, you've been seeing the signs, you've been seeing it. It's becoming more commercialized. So
in the
marketing,
US, it's a federal holiday, so we actually have the day off.
Right, that's what I mean. So, but if you don't know why you have the day off, let me tell you so that you will know once and for all. So basically, Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865. Which was 2 years after the Civil War and the end of slavery, or supposedly the end of slavery in the United States of America. And the reason that date 2 years later is now commemorated as Juneteenth is because that's how long it took the Union troops in the United States to arrive in Texas with the news of freedom.
It took 2 whole
years.
2 Christian years?
Or whatever religion you choose. 2 years.
2 whole years.
365 days times 2. That is what happened. So freedom became a thing, and people who were enslaved in Texas didn't find out until 2 years later.
Okay, I know we're talking about Black love for this country, but I really want to know the initial. I really would love to have been a fly on the wall or on the cotton, or is it Tibet, whatever, where
we still had walls.
We still had walls then. Okay. When the slaves found out, not that they were free, but that they had been free for 2 years.
Right. So this was in Galveston Bay, Texas, just so you know, the specific part of Texas. And like I said, Union troops came down. Yeah. And what was that conversation like? Hey, y'all, you're free. Actually, you were supposed to be free 2 years ago, but we just now getting down here to tell y'all. So
I swear to God,
happy freedom.
I would break an axle on every buggy on the farm. I promise you, I would go to every axle and just like take a rock and it would be a different axle. Like it wouldn't just be the driver's side, the passenger. Like you wouldn't know until you yoke the cattle to it and see what happens.
It's roulette.
It's roulette.
You just don't know.
2 years?
2 years. Well, I mean, and what that says to me is just that like there were a lot of people who weren't in a hurry to spread the news. And we could talk the whole episode about that.
No, move on, because now I don't love this country. Now I don't love this. I'm Black and I don't love this country. Okay.
Well, and
I'm mad all over again for all my ancestors. I don't even have no people from Texas, and I'm mad all over again.
Right. So I mean, but that's the thing, right? So that's why it's worth discussing today, and let's just get into it, because there are varying degrees of love for this country among Black people. Like we say all the time, Black people are not a monolith. We don't all feel the same way about everything. We don't all think the same way. And so there is diversity in how Black people individually or even organizationally or whatever feel about this country and how much they love this country or don't love this country. I was thinking about a few examples. So you've got people who on the end of the spectrum of love for this country and demonstrated love for this country. I think of two different groups of people, right? I think of those who sign up to serve this country in the armed forces. We always talk about love of country in that way. Certainly recognizing their service and thanking them, for their service, but to do that at a time, especially when you feel like you have other options,
right? To
choose to sign up to serve in the United States military, I think is an action of love for this country and is an indication of love. Then you have people, especially in generations past, definitely want to acknowledge all of the veterans.
Oh, absolutely. We just had Memorial Day
of generations past, but also recognizing that for them, signing up to be a part of the armed forces may not necessarily have been an action of love.
Right.
It was something that I have family members who were drafted. I have family members who signed up to serve in the armed forces and to defend this country because that was a way of opportunity for them. It was economic opportunity for them. And so
it was built as part of the American dream for a lot of families. Like you serve your time and you get the GI Bill, and that was supposed to be a springboard for you to be able to build and sustain your family, right?
You know, and a lot of people did. There are a lot of distinguished careers in the armed forces, and so you have that, but then you have people who show love for this country as a whole by signing up for public office, public service in different ways, both in the political realm and in other realms. But when I think about public office, of course, the most famous Black person, arguably, that we can think of that, well, let's say that has achieved the highest office in this country is Barack Obama.
Yes.
Who chose a career of public service. We think about John Lewis. Current day, I think about people like Stacey Abrams.
Yes.
You know, you have Black people who love this country.
Ayanna Presley. Yep.
And who, so many. We could name so many. I was just rattling off a few, but you have so many people, and even in names we don't know, local office, in municipal office, in villages, in names we may never know, but people who are signing up for public office because they love this country, they love their communities, and they want to work in that way to make them better. So you've got that on the one end of the spectrum, right? But then you have people who don't love this country so much. Yeah, we have Black people whose relationship with this country is not great. Yeah.
Tenuous. I think about Tina Turner, who I think she relinquished her American citizenship. I think she was a dual citizen for a spell, and then completely relinquished her U.S. citizenship in favor of Switzerland, and was a Swiss resident at the time of her death. She was only a Switzerland resident. It makes me think about Nina Simone, James Baldwin, Dorothy Dandridge. I think a few prominent and notable Black artists who did not feel comfortable and did not feel that the U.S. was a place where they were free to be who they were as they were, and decided to take up residence in Europe.
Right. Well, and it's not, I mean, so we're naming people who lived, you know, and thrived, who are of a different generation, right?
Definitely of a different generation.
But I'm seeing that a little bit now too. And I guess the part that we're skipping over, which we assume, is that, like, let's just say it out loud, because of the legacy of slavery in this country and the fact that racism is still very much a part of American life, and white supremacy and systemic racism.
Let's just say the thing that we need to say. This country was built on systemic racism.
Correct.
It was built to maintain a marginalized society for some folks and a privileged society for others. Continue.
Correct. And so it is that foundation, and that's the impetus for people leaving this country, or not having so much love for this country as others might have. And this individual choice that people make, as you noted, some famous artists have made to leave this country and to establish themselves or to live other places. But it's not just something that was happening in previous generations. It's something that people are choosing now. I actually have a friend. She has a very diverse global experience because she has traveled a lot. She grew up in a couple of different places. She is a United States citizen, but she also has citizenship some other places. And so she and her family decided, we're leaving. And they made plans to pick up and relocate to Lisbon, Portugal.
Just Portugal?
Lisbon, Portugal, which I understand based on her research. Based on her research, there's like a thriving, and I've never been there, but this is what she tells me, that there's a thriving Black community in Lisbon, Portugal, which is why she felt so at home with the idea of taking her Black family to Lisbon, Portugal. So you got people like that who definitely don't feel so much love for this country. You've got people like, people who sit down when the Star Spangled Banner is on, or being performed or sung or played or whatever. Famously, Colin Kaepernick, who kneeled, and that was the thing, and that caused a lot of strong opinions and debate about people's love for this country, or patriotism, or lack thereof. And so we've just got like a gamut. And then I actually was able to witness a disagreement between two people who I know, two Black people, who I know, with different levels of love for this country. One who's like, nah, I'm not so much. And the other one who's like, yeah, I am. And the difference between them, I just want to point out, is that one of them is an immigrant.
An immigrant from
an immigrant from a Black person who immigrated from another country to the United States.
Okay.
And the other one is the descendant of Africans who were enslaved in the United States.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. And so they're coming from two different lines of ancestry. Their ancestors' experiences are very different.
From an African country.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so you have one day, you know, we were talking about things and being critical, as we have a right to do as American citizens, of things
free speech
that were happening in this country. And it crossed the line for the other person. And they're like, wait a minute, I can't really get down with you bashing the United States like that because of A, B, C, D, E, and G. That's so great about this country, especially compared to the experiences of her family members in another country. And so her whole perspective about what's so great about the United States was different because it was relative to
the land of opportunity.
Yep. And it was relative to the experience that Black people in other parts of the world that are quote unquote not as fortunate are having. And so her whole point was, yes, you can say this, and this are so bad about the United States, but we're still so much better off than my cousins across the ocean.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, there's definitely a diversity of perspective. And for that reason, I should say her patriotism is higher than some other people's.
Yeah.
And so, but understandably, on the flip side, if you are the descendant of people who came here not willingly.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have a person who is a descendant of people who came here willingly. You have a descendant of people who came here not willingly, against their will. They're descendant of people who were enslaved. That perspective can be a little different. And I find that diversity so interesting.
Well, I think too, what the difference is just not, it goes beyond enslavement. It's the brutality and the brutality that was so pervasive for 400 years that it became imprinted on the DNA for generations to come, of kids to come. Like, you know, I think about this dynamic of parents putting their children down
and infanticide. Is that what you're talking about?
No. So not infanticide.
I thought you were talking about infanticide during slavery.
No.
Which was a thing.
It was a thing. Yes. It was a thing, but to a lighter degree, I would say, when like your child does something great, and the parent says, "Oh, that ain't too much of nothing. That ain't nothing to sneeze at. That ain't nothing to do." You know, kids are left feeling like, "Oh, my parents don't love me." But what that's born out of is if your child was in the field working and somebody noticed that they were a good worker, the parent would downplay it so that they weren't sold off to another plantation at a higher rate. And so that dynamic,
it was a protection.
It's a protection. But if you're doing that for 400 years to a people, by the time you make it out of slavery, you don't know why you're putting your kid down. That's just something that you don't know what that protection is born out of. It's just something that happened to you, happened to your mother, your grandmother, and so on and so forth, until it just became a way of being. And that's not right.
Yeah. And we're definitely still dealing with, you know, we talk about the term and the phrase generational trauma all the time.
Yeah.
And we're definitely still trying to grapple with the effects of what that did to our relationships. And maybe we'll talk about that more at some point. But I do think that, the brutality of not just the fact that it existed, but the brutality of it and the lingering effects of it. So obviously we're talking about the people who don't love the United States so much right now never experienced slavery firsthand.
Right.
What they don't love is the result of slavery, or the residual of slavery, the legacy of slavery, the white supremacy that still exists, the institutional racism that still exists. And so those things, have impacted and continue to impact generations, and it gets passed down, just like some of these ways of being that we have amongst each other as Black people.
Absolutely. And I will say, one of the things that keeps me here, because I actually have entertained leaving the US and living elsewhere in the world. And I'm specifically looking at the Oceania region to go relocate to. One of the things that gives me pause is the fact that we have something that a lot of countries don't have, which is free speech. We actually get to sit on this podcast right now and criticize our country. We get to do that.
And I wouldn't even say, I mean, yes, we're being critical in some ways, but not even criticize. I would just say evaluate.
I'm critical.
I mean, I am too at times, but I'm just saying.
But yeah.
I don't think it's just criticism anyway.
But all that to say, there's a journalist in Russia, a Wall Street journalist in Russia right now that's being prosecuted for high crimes and being accused of espionage just for reporting the facts of a thing, And so there are protections like that I don't take for granted, that one of the reasons why I love America. I have had opportunities here that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise. As super producer Lewis just said, is it critique or is it truth? I think that's something that we have decided. I think what's important for me in my journey with this country is really understanding who I am inside of it, which is why I'm choosing to celebrate Juneteenth by celebrating Black art.
Okay, so what are you going to do?
So I'm working for a nonprofit on the west side of Chicago. It's called the Mildred Wiley Wellness Campus, and it's powered by an organization that was developed in the 60s and 70s during the civil rights era for the purpose of resourcing Black folks in a predominantly Black community in Chicago. And it was called Bethel New Life. It sounds very churchy. It's no longer religiously affiliated, but we're putting on a program that's called Unapologetic. A celebration of Black art. We're having dancers, musicians, art activations, wellness activations, because we are a wellness campus. So it's not just about celebrating the Black art, but using the art to help heal us.
I love that.
To help heal us.
Yeah.
So, there's endless debate about, and we can and I made jokes about it, but for me, Juneteenth is about freedom, free to be who you are, as you are. Within an American context. What about you? What are you doing for Juneteenth?
Well, so for the actual day,
you should come to my program. Thanks.
For the actual day, I am free. What? Which is not always the case. I say that with surprise in my voice because I had to even look at my calendar to verify that was the case. So I am free on Freedom Day.
Listen, come on.
Listen, I'm free to do what I want that day.
I don't see you there 1 to 5 p.m.
Well, I said I'm free to choose what I'm going to do on Freedom Day, Juneteenth. But I will say this. I did celebrate Juneteenth already at a festival over the weekend.
Okay.
And so I got a chance to partake in some consuming of Black art as opposed to being the Black art on stage, which I love being the Black artist who is sharing their art. But in this case, I was watching and it was a family festival with food and music and vendors. I ran into a young woman who I bought it to, but she had authored her own children's book. And the hero is a little Black girl.
I love it.
And how could I not?
Right?
How could I not?
Right?
Especially for, I had to support that. But seeing that, and then, I got a chance to see one of the next generation who happens to be my godson, who did a lovely rendition of the Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. He did that and performed that for probably
your aunties love you, Chase.
Yes. Who he did that so well in front of a group probably bigger than of people he didn't know largely.
How old is Chase again?
Chase is 12.
Are you kidding me? Singing the big black
and he did it so well.
I love
it so well. So I have gotten my festival in.
Okay.
And
for now,
I have gotten my festival in, as I said previously. And we'll see what the day is going to bring. But just to circle back to what you were talking about and wanting to just your feelings about this country and recognizing the benefit of things here in this country, I do recognize the privilege of being an American citizen. And I also want to say this too. I'm not saying this is not directed towards you. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people, Black people, who talk about how much they don't like the United States. Oh, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna move somewhere, and they've never been anywhere else.
Right.
Let me tell you something. The quickest way to find out how American you are,
baby,
is to go spend some time, any length of time, in another country that's not a tourist area.
Yep.
That's not a tourist destination. And I have. So popping off at the mouth and saying, I'm going to pick up and move to another country is not something that I'm going to be doing lightly, because I've been to the not so great areas of other I've spent some time in other countries where it wasn't about trying to make your American self comfortable on vacation.
Hard, no matter what color you were.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, besides proximity to my family, which is very important to me, I do have to say that I love the communities that I have come from.
Absolutely.
Inside of this country. And I have a desire to make them better and to live with them and inside of them and do other things. Not to say I won't ever. I'm just saying that I don't think it's as simple as some people say when you're like, oh, I'm gonna go live somewhere else. Well, I mean, okay.
Go ahead, try that.
Okay.
Well, friend, I love you.
I love you too.
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Black love.
Yes.
To friends.
To
people who are just friends.
Yes, absolutely.
And who have our own degrees of Black love for the United States of America.
Degrees. All I can say, y'all, please go vote and go vote well.
Yeah.
In November and all your local elections, because that matters too. Friends.
And celebrate Juneteenth.
Yes, it's Freedom Day, y'all. Yeah. We free now.
Until next time, I'm Melanie Lauren.
I'm Holly Chanel.
And this is Dip with Sweet and Hot.
Yes. See y'all next time.
Bye.